Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome into Stack and Dubs. I'm your host, Chris Chin. The Warriors find a way to avoid the latest heartbreak of a loss, hanging on barely to a 24-point lead that they got off to immediately at Minnesota. Actually, ended up losing the lead at one point, but even better, they found a way to win in the clutch. They found enough offense in the clutch, took a couple kind of broken plays and some Steph Curry heroics, but nevertheless, the Warriors find a way to get back to 500, to 10th place in the West, but only 2.5 games out of fifth. Basically every half game they gain from here on out, they move up a place. They have a tiebreaker over the Wolves now, and they're right behind them. But I think the best news from the night is that Steph Curry shows that he's still got it. Has been great in the new calendar year, just much more consistent, much better playmaking. And comes at a time where he might have been a little extra motivated. After all the comments we've seen in this last little news cycle the last couple days with him, Dre, Steve Kerr just talking about, we're not going to, make a desperation move. And, we all took it, myself included, as, hey, are we waving the white flag here? What are we just going to be an average team and just not make a run and not give Curry a chance at another ship? But I don't think that's the case. And what we were really saying, they were really saying, it just shows that they're going to be patient. They're not going to be reckless and just overspend just for a chance to maybe do something here. They know that maybe we have a little bit more than just this year to compete. The next season, the next off season brings about new players available and just new possible options. And while it's tough to see Curry's last couple years basically punting on the last half of the season, Curry said, hey, no, we're not punting on this season. We're still a competitive team. No, we're not probably a contender at this moment, but when Curry gets it going and he can still be great, and when this team's playing hard defense like last night, they can still beat some good teams. They can, as Curry said, after the game, we can beat any team in a playoff series, and we believe that. And to which I would say, you're not beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West, nor probably the Cavs or the Celtics. But yeah, I mean, you have a chance to knock off any teams in the West, at least in one series, if not two. But again, just nice to be back to 500 and to see that Curry, can still step it up and, really dig deep. And, he played 37 and a half minutes, a season high last night. And, he was working hard for, the Wolves played him tough. Jaden McDaniels played him very tough. But Curry was, he dropped his 31 points, which is great. He took care of the ball, only one turnover. He basically was the engine the entire night. 8 assists, but basically created every piece of offense the Warriors got. And we learned that, we learned, but we also knew that, hey, this is what this team is and how they're going to win games. They're going to be a top 10 defense, now that Gary Payton the second's back, apparently. We'll talk more about GP2's impact. But when they have their point of attack defenders, when Draymond's back especially, this is a very good defensive team. And offensively, we know already that this is going to be a poor fourth quarter offense that's going to rely on supplementary players hitting threes. Buddy Hield getting to 18 points, because apparently when that happens, the Warriors win every single time. 10-0 now when Buddy Bellwether hits 18 points or more. And they're going to rely on Curry's greatness. And, they got greatness in this one. And, you know, quite frankly, heading, into that kind of later second half, and Curry's running up the minutes, I was like, oh man, he's kind of struggling to separate from Jaden McDaniels. And, as the almost 37-year-old legs are playing against these young, long, athletic defenders that, if McDaniels is just he has one job in this game, and that's just to focus on Steph Curry and defend and make life tough and prevent separation. It's very difficult to find separation. But late in the game, Curry did. They hunted a mismatch, got Nas read on him. We're talking a minute left in a tie game, and Curry keeps the ball moving, finds gets down low to Kevon Looney, and Curry relocates to the corner where he has some Minnesota fans just chirping in his ear, telling him all sorts of terrible things about how he's washed. Fill in the blank, whatever you want to say about Steph Curry. Gets a little up fake, gets read flying, puts the ball in the air, knows it's going in, turns, chirps right back at these fans, and a moment later the ball splashes through for a three. And felt like that was the game there, up three with less than a minute, but Wolves scored. Warriors, GP, who for some reason is in on offense and inbounding the ball there to Moses Moody. I don't know how that's the combo that is taking care of the ball in a situation like that, but turns it over on the out of bounds. Then fast forward a little bit, Wolves cut it to within one. Curry inbounds the ball. And we still have a timeout at this point. Curry inbounds the ball to GP, who gets fouled, sending him to the line for free throws. I don't know how that's the play that we want there. He's not making both of them. But you also know Kevon Looney is a very good offensive rebounder, and he tips out GP's miss to Wiggins, who finds Curry and gets fouled and basically ices the game. Oh man, Warriors escape, and between two teams that have played the most clutch time close games in the league this year, the Warriors show that they are sick of losing close games more and eke this one out, but not without drama. So all that said, Curry is shows that he is just a cold-blooded assassin. Get a little motivation in him, and just get him chasing a win, chirp in his ear, get him fired up a little bit. And, just the petty Steph Curry that he is, the cold blood just kind of oozes out. And, if there's a photo in a nutshell that sums up this game, it's Curry just mean mugging these fans as the ball is halfway into the air with less than a minute left in a tie game. That is just psychotic behavior, but we love our psycho, cold-blooded Steph Curry. GP's return, very impactful, and he played way more minutes than I would have thought coming off of injury. And, we know what his shortcomings are. We know he's not a good shooter, but we also know what he does well, and that he is an elite point of attack defender. And paired with Andrew Wiggins, they did a phenomenal job on Anthony Edwards. And, just you see what this team with two great point of attack defenders, even without Draymond Green playing, but you have some rim protection behind them with TJD. I wish we had Melton. If we had those three, that is just such a good defensive team. For so many reasons we're not going to get into, but if GP could just find a little more offense, more so just be a 33% shooter from three and just be able to knock that down. I think he's shooting 18% from three on the season. Now he's a closing lineup player, and he was a closing lineup player, but maybe not after last night. But just for everything he brings defensively, offensively, he just hurts you so much. But I will say, what he brings on that end of the floor is just great chemistry with Steph. And, outside of Draymond Green, he's one of the few Warriors that we've seen, even just throughout the dynasty, that can really elevate Steph. Outside of just providing more spacing for Steph to work, he's one of those guys that, knows how to find Steph in the right places, knows how to set screens to free him up, serves as a good, screener and then short roller when Steph gets trapped to be able to make decisions with the ball or just, get all the way into the hoop for a finish like he did last night. He brings that element of being able to, help Steph get better shots. And that's not the case for so many guys. And which leads me to my next point is that, we talk about that getting a stretch five. We talk about Vucevic, a zillion times, and we've belabored the point how it helps Kuminga, helps, provide spacing for Steph, helps everybody. But I think getting a stretch five actually really unlocks GP lineups and gives you just that extra shooter that you need to allow Gary Payton to be on the floor. We see how much success they've had when Buddy Hield, Steph Curry have been on the floor with GP. Provide enough spacing, and then GP2 can, on offense, run the baseline, be a vertical spacer. Now you have enough guys outside the perimeter where he can be an effective, just kind of baseline runner, in addition to the things he already does. And he doesn't just have to stand in the corner and be a lack of a spacer. So I'd really like to see, if we do get that stretch five, now you can start playing Gary in these closing lineups and have maybe a little bit more success, and not in, not be a two-way player, but not be quite a one-dimensional one-way player. And you can kind of, hide his shooting flaw a bit more on offense. So great to see him back, and was a big part and big impact to why we won last night. Also have to talk Andrew Wiggins. One of his probably best 3 or 4 games of the season, just as a two-way player. 24 points, 5 rebounds. Every point was just huge, and they came, mostly in the second half when, Steph was either out of the game or in the locker room doing God knows what, or the Wolves were just on a run, cutting it to single digits, and the Warriors couldn't score, and Steph was getting hounded by McDaniels at that point. Wiggins found a way to create for himself. He took Anthony Edwards one-on-one, great matchup there, just all night long, but took him one-on-one, got the finish, but also showed really good control attacking the hoop. Found ways to get into the lane, didn't have to just try to beat the defenders to the backboard. Gobert's there, they got some bigs, but found ways to kind of decelerate, taking a page out of Kyle Anderson's slow mo book, and get to some crafty finishes, but also get fouled. Right, just change the defense's timing a little bit, and just really be a little more crafty, patient, creative. And he got to the line 12 times, made 10 of them, and gosh, every single point was just at a time when the Wolves were closing the gap, and he really just kind of kept them at arm's length. So just great to see him aggressive and just to find enough offensively on a night where he was working on defense. But that's what having Gary Payton does for you. It gives Wiggins just a little breather occasionally off a team's best player, and allows him to generate a little bit more offensive creation for you. But that being said, I thought on the defensive side, Wiggins was just phenomenal on Anthony Edwards. And it was the times where Wiggins got switched off or was out of the game that Ant finally started getting, into the lane, getting fouled. I think Minnesota shot 20 free throws in the third quarter. That was just trash. But yeah, I thought, honestly, I know I watch a lot more Warriors than any other team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But Andrew Wiggins deserves to be an all defensive player, even if it's on the second team. I mean, he's just been great for a few years, and you just, whether it's guards, wings, even some power forwards, he has just been a top notch defender, and really just you don't. You see all these, all-star wings, especially just having, off nights or at least below average nights, often shooting below 50% from the field, and it's really struggling to get off against the Warriors. Rarely is it that a superstar wing is just they're unstoppable and the Warriors are having trouble with them. It's usually the supplementary pieces and 3-point shooters that kill the Warriors. But Wiggins, I think, just phenomenal job, and just I can't say enough about how much better his conditioning has been this year to be able to be a two-way force for the Warriors. Also got to shout out Guy Santos, first start as a Warrior and as an NBA player. And the Warriors jumped out to a 26-5 start. And yeah, Santos, I thought, great energy. He gives you kind of what you don't have, especially without Kaminga there. He gives you a 6'8", 6'9", kind of wing forward, big body, strong kid. I think he's only 22 years old, but plays with great energy, particularly off ball on the defensive side of the floor. And that's just what the Warriors, it's what Draymond Green gives you, but just being able to just rotate, get to spots. He needs to work on not fouling quite as much, but just it's just something that the Warriors don't really have, and it just kind of gives us that extra that a different. He's a role player, with so many role players, but he gives you that. And just like all our role players, they all have kind of one or two big weaknesses. And on the offensive side, he keeps the ball moving. He'll keep moving. He'll set good screens. He's not a scorer per se, but he gives you good size, and being able to shoot is probably what's going to dictate whether he's going to get more minutes going forward. But honestly, his shot looks pretty good. Like his release looks good. He's think like a 34, 35% type shooter in the G League. And I think if, he's taken, wide open set shots in the NBA, which he's going to be getting, if he knocks him down at a 35, 36% clip, now you're going to get a little respect from your defender. And that's a little bit of spacing. And hey, now you're a playable three, not quite a three, but, a almost 3-and-D type player, and get some, 8-10 minutes with the Warriors, and it's been pretty effective. So it's got to give him his props, and he's been a winning player for the Warriors, and should continue to see some more minutes. All right. Well, the Warriors get to hang out in California, I think, with the next 9 games or 8 of the next 9 games, a few more home games. And, hopefully we can kind of start climbing the ladder a little bit. This being able to bounce back after a rough Raptors loss and kind of get basically a split out of the last 2 games on this road trip. We will absolutely take it. And man, just, you know, a bad loss away against the Raptors from going 3-1 on this road trip. And, now it's a different feel. But I think the Warriors feeling a bit better about themselves. Obviously, got to be better than just a win loss type team if they're going to make any noise. So hopefully this is the jump off point for them to start playing better. But again, the fact that Steph Curry has shown up, since the calendar turn, he has been much better the last 6 games. I think he's averaging 27 points per game. Percentage is way better. I think he is 48% from three this year, and more so, I'm looking at that 2 point percentage, which I think it was at like 48% on 2 pointers this whole season so far, which is not nearly good enough. Most of his good years, he's at like 58% on that. But he's back. I think he's up at like 54, 55%, finishing in the last 6 games inside that 3 point arc. And I think a big testament to that is that he's not forcing the issue to get to the hoop, and he was turning the ball over a lot or is throwing up some wild finishes, hoping to get fouled. He's settling into that pull up at the elbow, and just a few more mid range shots. And I know the NBA these days is kind of the mid range shot is kind of dying, but when the offense is the Warriors, as the Warriors is, and Steph Curry, the best shooter of all time. A Steph Curry pull up, 15-footer. I'll live with that all day, every day. And it seems that he's kind of determined to get that back into his shot selection. So very good job. Hopefully he can kind of keep sustaining, this extra load for a bit until Kuminga gets back and some more offensive firepower comes back and supports him. But yeah. All right, guys. Well, good job. And let's just hope we can get on a little roll here. Again, we're out of December, and January's showed some promise of kind of righting the ship a bit as we head towards the trade deadline in February, and can better assess what the heck we're gonna do. All right. I hope this version works. This is the third time I've recorded this episode. The first time I just completely forgot the mic. The second time I didn't hit record. So here I am, round 3. Hope it was my best session. But I'm Chris, and until next time, peace, love, and stacking dubs.